Welcome to Mama's on a Mission, a lifestyle show for moms creating an extraordinary life. My name is Virginia Jimenez and I am your host, and today we have an awesome guest. Her name is Rena Etienne. She's the founder of A Little Room to Grow, and I'll definitely have her explain more about what A Little Room to Grow is. But today, before anything, I just want to let you know what today is all about. We're going to be talking about some good stuff, right, Rena?
Yes, we are.
We're going to be talking about the 3 keys to raising a confident child, or children, I should say, right? But first, Rena, tell us more about A Little Room to Grow.
So A Little Room to Grow is basically a Montessori-inspired service where I go into the homes and create a space for children to be able to do things, their day-to-day routines independently. So, I create basically bedroom spaces for the children to be able to reach their belongings independently, in the bathroom as well, and then the most importantly is the play spaces to be able to allow the child to have a simplistic space so that they're able to play more often, and so we can inspire creativity at home.
Yes.
And also through the simplistic space allows them to be independent, to put their things away, so it's not so overwhelming.
Right. So you create spaces for children to grow more independently,
yes,
confidently, and even to have more creativity in their lives.
Yes, in their own life,
for
yes,
their learning overall.
Yeah, which aids them, obviously when they're growing up and for school as well. So it's a great way to prepare them, through their young lives.
Right. And so what are some, like, just before we get to the 3 keys, what are some examples of like what you've seen a specific playroom to be like before you've done any work on it?
Yeah, I would say that the most typical is that many play spaces have pretty much all the toys are always like in a bin. Everything is just kind of thrown in one space, and then children seem to have too many toys, and a lot of the toys either don't work or they've outgrown them, or pieces of things are missing, and it's just chaos. So the parent always wonders, like, gosh, they're always wanting to, play on the iPad all the time, and they don't really ever want to go and play with their toys, and they have so many toys I don't understand. So I'm here to, help them out to create a more simplistic space, so that way it's much more inviting for the child to want to actually engage with their toys and get creative and play. And then when they're done, it's not a hard task for them to put it away because they know where it goes.
Right. And I think that now when you explained it like that, it just makes more sense of why it would be so useful to have you come into a space and take a look at it. Because how many parents out there have had that same problem where you're thinking, why is my child always going to the iPad instead of like playing with all these other things? There's so many toys in the house and they do nothing with it. You know, how many parents I've heard say the same thing, right? And it's probably because it's just not like psychologically inviting for them. It's not comforting for them to like deal with all this madness.
Yes, and it's overwhelming. It really is. And a lot of times it's not that they don't want to. It's just it's a natural habit for children to want to be able to play and create and explore. But a lot of times if the environment is not set up in that way to encourage that, then it's something that they're gonna just kind of find another way to get that satisfaction. And so the easiest way for them to do that is to grab a piece of technology that's an instant gratification.
Right.
That's an organized thing that they know how to manipulate, and it's simple. They can grab it and put it away, and it's not a big deal. But when it comes to obviously the toys, there's many more things that come into that, and then a lot of the times after play, it's always a frustrating moment, like, you need to clean up!
Right.
So sometimes they probably avoid that interaction with their parents, and so there's a lot of things that kind of play into why they don't necessarily play in a space that has too much stuff.
Right, and that doesn't have like some sort of order, organizational system, let's say, so that it's easy for them to know, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is where everything goes, and they kind of just stick to it and go on autopilot from there.
Right, and the thing is that really the truth is that they don't need a lot to really play. They don't need so many toys. They don't need so many things in front of them to feel like that they want to go and create and explore with things. They're really, the less that they have, the better, because then they're really utilizing what they have and trying to problem solve and use it in different ways, and then creativity sparks from there. So simplicity is really the key, in creating a space for the children, not only in the play space but just in their everyday life as well. When they're in their bedroom, in the kitchen, if they can simply go and find themselves a snack they can just reach a little plate for themselves or pour water for themselves. Those are simple tasks that they're able to do, which aids in their confidence at the end of the day, you know. Right. So it's a lot of benefits that come into the growing mind of a child to support that. You know, so that's what A Little to Grow is about.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I did want everyone to learn a little bit more about what A Little to Grow is.
Yeah.
Before we got into the 3 keys. So let's talk about these 3 keys. These 3 keys to raising a more confident child.
Yes.
And they're basically D. They start with the letter D, discipline. Mm-hmm. A is for autonomy, and then the last two are conscious communication. So let's talk about discipline as being one of the keys. Why is discipline one of the major keys that parents should keep in mind when they're raising confident children?
I think that discipline is definitely a kind of a big word that many parents kind of struggle with nowadays. You know, in our modern times, we're becoming a little bit more, you know, just sensitive to our child's what they want to do. We're honoring our children's like behaviors that they're, you know, don't want to. I don't know, they're tired and they're cranky, and so they're kind of just lash out because they're tired and cranky. The parent nowadays, we're much more sensitive to that, whereas before it was just kind of like, listen, you're gonna go to sleep because you're tired, and it is what it is. You know what I mean? So so anyways, with disciplining children, parents kind of tend to shy away from what that means, because you're trying to find like how to define that for yourself. You know, we kind of want to let go of the old way of doing things, because I said so way, and then you don't necessarily want to let them do everything, because you know that they need some form of discipline. So the reason why it is very important for children to have some form of discipline in their lives is because they're children. They're not really they're learning, right? And so if discipline comes with teaching them how things work and why they work, you know. So in disciplining your child, there's so many learning moments. There's just so many, you know, life lessons that come through that. And it's not, if we take the approach, we let go of the approach of because I said so. It's more, you know, the approach of this is why we don't stand on a chair, because it's not safe, and because, you know, there's consequences that come with that, and things like that. You know, it's just kind of turning that into a learning experience versus that, because from there, I mean, there's endless lessons, and why not? Why shouldn't your children be growing up to learn how to maneuver in their everyday environment?
And I think you said something. There's endless lessons with discipline, because I think discipline actually, it could be, you know, when we think of discipline with children in that context of raising children, we think, okay, it's about, you know, saying, you know, doing what I said, right? You know, just honoring that and making sure that if their behaviors go out of line, that you do something to instill some discipline, right? But I also think that another factor, which we talked about before our video right now, is that the discipline of parents keeping their word. Right?
Yes.
And honoring that in the sense of being more disciplined to honor words, so that you can discipline your children. Right. You know, so it's almost like a double entendre there, right? So it's like you're disciplining yourself to be able to discipline your children better.
Right. And that's the hardest thing, obviously, with discipline, because it requires the parent to have you know, a lot of just self-control. You know, a lot of times it just you want to just kind of give in. You want to, your child is behaving a certain way, so you want to give into the behavior to kind of diffuse the anger that they have going on. So that doesn't necessarily help them, because in a sense you're rewarding a behavior that you don't want.
Right.
So, but the thing with discipline is that you have to be that firm parent, no matter if you're feeling it or not. It's in that moment is when they learn. Right. It's every single moment that, you know, they kind of go this way or that way. You're there to help guide them to stay on whatever path it is, however you choose to raise them. But it takes that constant effort,
right?
You know, and sometimes it also requires some self-work. You're gonna realize, like, oh crap, there's some habits that I have here that I'm gonna have to let go of in order for this to work, and we don't want to necessarily face that.
Right.
But that's our growth, you know.
That's exactly correct.
That's the benefit of parenting too, you know.
Absolutely. That's why there's some people that say that your children can become your teachers.
Yes,
basically, right? And in some way it is, because, you know, I've encountered this with some of the clients I've had actually recently, about how, like, because the whole concept of people pleasing, I think people that end up not saying no when they need to say no.
Yes.
I think parents that don't say no when they need to say no are the ones that will more than likely have an issue with disciplining because they're not keeping their word with their kids because there's blurring lines and not understanding what their criteria is for specific boundaries in their parenting lifestyle. Right,
which tends to pretty much confuse the child, and they also learn they're learning to manipulate situations as well. It's a part of their development. We have to accept that. But how they manipulate the situation is based on how you raise them. So if they know that by whining or crying or screaming and kicking, that's how they get their way, that's how they're communicating, and they get their way when they do that, then guess what? They're gonna do what works. They're gonna think, okay, this is the way that I communicate when I need something.
Right.
Versus if you put your foot down and say, excuse me, you need to use your words. What is it that you need? You're upset because of why,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Helping them manage their emotions and stuff. Exactly.
Right. So again,
we're coaching our children.
You're coaching your children.
Yeah.
There's the life lesson right there. When you're an adult, if you don't get your way, you're not going to go into work and
Exactly.
You got to communicate. Use your words and really try to use that in your benefit to communicate effectively.
Yeah.
So why shouldn't they be learning that in their early ages?
Yeah.
And you can't wait. You can't expect that they're going to learn these skills at school either.
Right. And we could go on and on about this because disciplining is just one of those things. So I think just to recap the whole discipline thing, I think some of the things that I heard you say were basically, about parents keeping their word and about how important discipline really is, because pretty much the parents, we are coaching our children, and this is helping them out in the real world to feel more confident.
Yes.
So it's a good thing to have more discipline.
Absolutely.
Not only for the parents' sake to discipline themselves, but for the kids' sake, for them to know that, there are rules that I need to follow.
Yeah.
This is, you're not just raising your child for yourself, you're raising them to be in this world.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So discipline, awesome.
Yeah.
The next key besides discipline is autonomy.
Yeah.
And this is the whole thing of you were telling me about a more day-to-day independence with their routines and things. Tell me, expand more about autonomy and why that's an important key for confident children.
Yeah. So another thing why autonomy is very important, because it's just children need to learn to be able to do things for themselves, because they're capable. They're capable little people. They have, they want to be able to do things for themselves. That's one thing. At their early ages, they just have this strong desire, especially toddlers, to want to do things for themselves. And when you have that window, that is the time where you want to say, you know what? Yes, you can do things on your own. These are the things that you're allowed to do on your own, and these are the things that I'm going to help you with, and these are the things that you have to define that for the children, so they are learning that sense of inner confidence, and that they're practicing to use their potential. They won't ever know that they are capable of doing something if they're not physically doing it.
So what are maybe an easy tip for parents, let's say in their home, to help their kids distinguish between what they should be doing on their own and what the parents are going to be doing with them? Is there anything?
So there's say for instance, getting dressed is always a thing that many parents struggle with. Why? Because children at some point they want to start to be able to choose what they're gonna wear, not because they care what they're gonna wear and what it looks like. It's just comfort and preference, and they want to have that sense of control. So a lot of times getting dressed is the biggest thing. So in a sense that you can encourage the independence by providing at least maybe 3 outfits or 2 outfits, however works for you, and and say, okay, you have the choice to pick out of these 3, and whichever 3 that they choose, you really ultimately have chosen those 3, and you kind of acknowledge that they if they want to wear, they don't really like wearing jeans. All right, so one of your options are not going to have jeans. So you want to really respect their thing too, but so providing them the options to choose, to have the power to choose, but still you're working with you're giving them the power, but you're also in control in a sense, but they don't see it that way. They feel okay, I have these options, I'm gonna wear this today, so in that sense you're kind of working together, but you're encouraging that independence. Again, if they don't want to brush your teeth and it's time for bed, well then you obviously don't have the choice not to brush your teeth, because a thing that a part of a routine that you have to do before going to bed. So you can choose to do it after you clean up your toys, or after we do this, or after we do that. But within this window,
excuse me, oh my gosh.
But you're laying down the line of when it needs to happen before they rest their body. They can choose when to do it, but you know what I mean?
That's interesting. So it's just, you're giving them a choice. It's psychologically they feel like they have a choice.
Yes.
But it's just that you're just giving them options that for them it's like they're not necessarily thinking like she's the one telling me to do it.
Yeah.
You're just saying, listen, you either do it at this time or this time or this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so you're encouraging that sense of independence, and also too it's empowering them to feel like they are in control of their lives in some kind of way, because that is again a natural desire for them. So that aiding that is just strengthening their ability to become strong, confident individuals. And again, if we don't do that when they're ready for it, which is a very young age,
right,
then that window closes, and then it's going to be really hard to try to instill that. You have to, it's not impossible, but it just becomes much more difficult.
Right.
So why make it difficult for yourself?
Right. So encourage your children, basically encourage your children to be, to have more independence and take a lead. And also understand what some of the things that, us parents, let's say, are going to be doing for them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we're definitely going to be cooking, although at some age I'm sure they can cook. My oldest son cooks, so.
Yeah, exactly. And they love to be in the kitchen from a very young age. So there are some things that they can, which is great for bonding. Some things that they can help, you cook with. Like they can help cutting, or they can help,
depending on the age.
Depending on the age, there's a lot. You'll be surprised, because it's me being a Montessori teacher, I'm in a toddler environment, and our children at 2-3 years old, they're cutting their own, fruits and things. There are tools out there that you can research that are safe gadgets for your children to use.
Oh, okay.
Like no task is too big. You just have to, as a parent, learn how to think like, okay, if my child wants to do this, how can I modify this in a way that I can help them accomplish what they want to do?
Right.
So
and I think that now that you said tools, because I think when your son was smaller, you had like a small broom.
Yeah.
Like a miniature sized broom, and like certain house tools.
Yeah.
That he can actually go ahead and do certain things on his own.
Yeah.
In the kitchen, and
right.
And not only that, but you also had like the plates in his level.
Yeah.
Like certain things in his level, so he can go ahead and get it.
Yeah.
I mean, how many parents out there have had the situation where your child is like, "Mommy, I want cereal. Mommy, I want cereal. Mommy, I want cereal. Mommy, I want cereal."
Yeah.
And then and it's like, man, I wish they could just grab the bowl themselves and fix their own bowl of cereal.
Right. And really, they if you give them the opportunity, they would do it. A lot of parents think like, oh, they need my help, or they're not going to do it. But if you give them the opportunity, you set up the environment, and you tell you hold that confidence, like you can handle it. This is how you show them how to do it 1 or 2 times and make sure that it's always at their level. Then they'll sit there and get what they need when they need it. I mean,
awesome.
That's a win-win.
Awesome. I love that. All right. So we got 2 keys so far: discipline, autonomy. The last key, conscious communication.
Yeah. That's a big one.
And that is a big one. That could sound so broad, like conscious communication. What is that? So I think that what we were talking about, it was like healthier relationship between the parents as a result. Problem solving, critical thinking that takes place in a space of having that type of communication with your child.
Yeah.
Right? So tell me what your experience has been like, some of the things that you've done to have more conscious, more loving relationship with your child and helping him become more confident, just in the sense of having that conscious communication.
Yeah. I guess like the biggest thing for me was when my child, like I remember one time I spanked him. Right, and it was for something that I thought that was like, hey, this is not okay. And the way that I spanked was not compared to like how I grew up being spanked, right? So
for me, I'm sure.
Right? So I mean, it was literally like one of those pats, like, nope, that's it, And so when I did that, I guess it was very like aggressive out of anger. And my child, my son told me, Mommy, I don't like when you do that. I don't like it. And so when he had said that, I felt like, wow, I felt like I'm glad that he felt comfortable enough to tell me how he felt about something that I have done towards him. And then that was a learning moment for me to say, you know what? at the end of the day, he still didn't learn his lesson because I just lashed out of anger, and I should have took the opportunity to really try to explain and help him understand why it's not, why that behavior wasn't okay. So from then I realized that it's really, I want for him to always come to me and tell me how he feels, whether even if he's upset that I did something towards him or anyone, you know, I just want for him to always have that open line of communication, because that helped me become a better parent.
Right.
You know, so I just always wanted to make sure that I held that space for him to always feel like we can talk about whatever, and so part of doing that is, you know, allowing for him to tell me how his day went, and you know, even if it's something that's just very simple, then at least I'm listening, you know.
Right.
So
do you make it a point, like, do you have a specific schedule? Like, let's say, you know what, at this time of the day, this is our routine. We're gonna sit down and talk about what the week was like, or what today was like, or, you know, what do you suggest for parents? Because I feel like some parents might, like, I have had days where I've gone on autopilot, you know?
Right.
And I normally have a routine with my kids. It's at night. At night is when we talk about the day.
Yeah.
We pray together. We do some stuff, something like that. But there's parents that, I don't know if that's the case with every parent. So how do you feel about routines, and do you have one with your child, and what do you suggest?
Yeah, for me, we definitely had the routine of the bedtime, like when it was time to go sit down and, for him to lay down, we would read. And then through there, a lot of conversations will come up. We started like something like a gratitude journal, so that helped open up like you know, conversation of what he enjoys, is really grateful for, and you know, stuff like that. Just but I think that you can find opportunity and throughout any time of the day that you can, you know, on the way to school or in the car, especially like during dinner time. Maybe you guys are out on a family outing, instead of having the cell phones out on dinner, you can actually sit there and have conversation, you know. So there's so many opportunities to have, just, it doesn't have to be a 15-minute sit down, you know, interrogation of what's going on with you type of thing. It's just kind of like conversation, and through there, it's you're creating that relationship, that open space for them to feel comfortable to come to you and talk to you.
Right.
So that when they become adults, you know, you still you want them to come to you as you know, a guidance, in a sense. And so they won't do that if they're intimidated by you, like, you know,
or if you haven't even had that line of communication, really, like, to build trust. Where they can trust that they can share certain things with you. Not that they don't trust you, just don't trust you with certain things. Trust is one of those things where it depends on, you know, context.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily you expect for them to come to you for everything. You know, they won't, because it's different. You know, you go to your friends for one thing, and you go to your siblings for another, or you go to your mom for one. So, but it's just that you don't want for your child to ever hide something from you, because they are intimidated or scared by you, or because they feel like you're not going to listen, you know, or because they feel like you're not going to really understand their perspective, or, you know, that right there is just not, you know, it's not helpful to help build a confident individual.
Right. And what would be some questions that, maybe like 2 questions that, the icebreakers, you know, for conversation in the car, let's say, to help like the parents kind of, because, you know, I think sometimes parents get stuck like, well, how do I do it? How do I do it? We get stuck in this how do I do it world, and I feel like, you know, it's not how, it's what do we need to do. So what do we need to ask or say to get that going? Because sometimes it's, you know, we can't wait for kids to just tell us. Sometimes we really need to instigate the communication or start it.
And the thing too is that also, so what you can do is ask them a lot of times, use words like how does it feel, like, you know, I don't know, trying to think of a situation. How do you feel when you went to I don't know, the park with your friend? I felt happy, or I felt sad. Well, why did you feel sad? Oh, because, you know, he took the ball from me and blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, what did you do when he took the ball? So from there, you're starting a conversation, you're opening up how they felt and how they handle something. And there's an opportunity right there to help them figure out how to handle a social situation.
Awesome.
You know, or you can, so the pop word, like, feel, how do you feel? And then
emotions,
also
bringing out the emotions.
Yeah, because that's a very difficult thing. They're not gonna just tell you like how they feel. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of words, and they're still building their vocabulary, and they're still figuring out to connect emotion with, you know, using their words to describe how they feel. It's a lot for them.
Right.
So again, communicating helps them express themselves in that sense. And I guess the next thing would be is just kind of find anything that you guys have done before that you've had fun and go back to a memory. You remember when we did this? You remember when we did that? Yeah, I remember that. You know what I mean? So, and then from there, maybe something also too that happened that you didn't necessarily like. You'd be like, oh, you remember when when that time when you got in trouble for blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, maybe that's a good moment to recap on why, you know what I mean, on the lesson again. So it's just nice. Talking about the good and the bad. You know, it's not necessarily always about the good.
Right.
You know, so
that's a good
getting
one.
comfortable with that.
Awesome. So this has been so informative. We've talked about the 3 keys to raising a confident child, which were discipline, autonomy, and conscious communication, which is a really big one. I love what you shared with us, Rena. Thank you so much for being part of Mama's on a Mission show. And there's going to be more information about Rena if you want to connect with her. Where can they find you? At
alittleroomtogrow.com with the number 2.
A little room to grow. Okay.
So you can email me through there if you want to contact me. I'm here.
Exactly. You can definitely connect with her on there. She has a Facebook page too. You can like on there. On Instagram, she's posting things too. Little things on there also, and you can sign up to her newsletter. She sends out a monthly newsletter. So thank you guys for watching today. Again, I'm your host, Virginia Jimenez, and remember that your circumstances don't define you. Your decisions do. So I hope to see you next time on Mama's on a Mission. Bye.